Hello folks, this is Steve AB for you. I want to show you something I found. Let's have some fun. You know, nothing in this episode is a promotion, nor is it a recommendation. One of my regular tabs is /not.org, News for Nerds. I'm just looking down here. Then I saw this one. Now, this guy gets into so many things, I don't know. Bill Gates moves ahead with nuclear project aimed at revolutionizing power generation, like he did with Windows and some of the other things that he's spending his billions on to help humanity. I remember Bill Gates as a punk kid. I'm that old. Bill Gates and his energy company. You know, he's just like Elon Musk. He's got so many billions. He's got his finger in so many pies. Bill Gates and his energy company are starting construction at their Wyoming site. Now, when I think of, I haven't been to Wyoming, but I always think it's like I hitchhiked across North Africa, and we crossed the northern tier of Libya. I'll bet you that looked a lot like Wyoming, or the Negev in Israel. Beautiful in its own way. Are starting construction at their Wyoming site for next generation nuclear power plant that he believes will revolutionize how power is generated. Gates was in the tiny community, so that means it's in the middle of nowhere, of Kermerer Monday to break ground. The site, apparently, of Gates is, next paragraph, is adjacent to Pacific Corp's Naughton Power Plant. Now, we'll get back to that in a moment. So the first thing I did is I went, where's this little hick town? I mean, I've seen little oases in the western desert of Egypt. It's showing snow? I don't know anything about Wyoming. It must be far north. Okay, so let's look at the map. You know, I've shown you in videos places like Mali, a country in Africa. And then when you look at a map, what I always draw your attention to is how many roads are there? Like compared to, well, like here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. This doesn't have anywhere near as many roads as the Piedmont of North Carolina. So it is kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the other thing I noticed right here is that there are boundary lines and they're absolutely straight. So when you get lines that are absolutely right angle, you're in the middle of nowhere, because there's never been any property disputes. They're just convenient surveyor lines. So there are state highways, and here's an interstate, but it doesn't go through the place we're talking about. Now we're looking at the terrain. Now we know why there's only a few roads. it was hard enough to build them. And I'm guessing there's a river right here, and it's down it's been eroded out. And I can see, now let me show you. See, this is the way I evaluate terrain. Okay, so Pertinel Draw. So it is a river. But other than that, things that are not down in there, this is an eroded landscape. And in the winter, especially, there are flash floods. I've shown you landscape like this in northeastern Libya. I can remember making a video. These tracks are not paved, but they're used regularly. They're not real roads, but they are regular kind of gravel. Yeah. Where you go through the, see? Okay. Now, let's get back to the town. Where's the town? I lost track. Where's the town? Can we find the town again? There's a highway. Look at that. We're getting a feeling for what it's like there. Why would they have a road going to something that looks like this? That looks like it's some kind of mining operation. Okay, the town we're interested in is here, and that's where Bill Gates was. I'm showing you that he went to... Oh, look at this. There's a municipal airport. That's how he got in there. I didn't notice that. And they got a couple of... They've got a paved runway, that's the main one, and then they've got these shorter ones. Do you think that light plane traffic might be important to getting in and out of this part of Wyoming? I do. Okay, so the town is there. And I'm looking. Oh, I think I see the name. Now hang on. See this right here? It's right nearby, so to speak. Now hang on. The site is adjacent to Pacific Corp's Naughton Power Plant. Yes. Pacific Corp Naughton Plant parking lot. Now what we're trying to do is put together why Gates chose this place. And I think I found the actual reason. This was like an easy to persuade them partnership, and I'm going to show you why. The Pacific Corp's Norton Power Plant will stop burning coal in 2026. We'll say 2 years from now. And natural gas a decade later. The utility said, nuclear reactors operate without emitting planet-warming greenhouse gases. There's the big propaganda war. Pacific Corp plans to get carbon-free power from the reactor and says it is weighing how much nuclear to include in its long-range planning. So Gates has got this ideal out in the middle of nowhere place that's stuck in a corner with respect to its burning resources to burn, and they're buddies now. The work began Monday is aimed at having the site ready so TerraPower can build the reactor as quickly as possible if its permits is approved. And then it says Russia is at the forefront for developing sodium-cooled reactors. I understand why they're going to sodium. Why would a sodium-cooled reaction be ideal? Let me show you. Now, it'll seem like I'm wandering. Remember, we're in North Carolina. New Hill, NC. Let's go to a map. I can get there in an hour. There it is. It's just a little crossroad, and it's next to US 1. It's near Jordan Lake. We're in the Piedmont of North Carolina, the edge of the Piedmont. And look at this right here, right next to this lake. Next to this lake. Right on the lake. You see what it says right there? Can you see that? It says U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Can you read it over here? Why would the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission have an office in New Hill, North Carolina that's just a little crossroad? Well, that's because the thing that's next to it is the Sharon Harris Nuclear Power Plant. And there's the power plant. And there's the steam tower. And if you're driving along on US 64 and you're going east toward Raleigh, when you get near Jordan Lake and you look kind of south, you can always see this big plume of steam. It's coming from this thing right here. Let's see if they'll give us a street view. There it is. You see it right there? See how big that is? But the key thing here is they're using this for cooling water. Do you notice how green it is? Do you notice how many trees there are? And it's near Jordan Lake. And this is the Sharon Harris Reservoir. It's a nuclear power plant. Operating now. Supplies my electricity. Now let's take a look at where they're going to build it in Wyoming. Now look, there's water right there, right? Now can you see the steam? Can you see the steam coming off from the cooling towers? Just like Sharon Harris. You see that little reservoir there of water? You see this right here? What does it say? Naughton Ash Pond number 2. What's an ash pond? After they burn something like coal, they have ashes. Where do they put them? Now, I'm going to tell you that Duke Energy and its subsidiaries and affiliates have been in the last 10 years, ongoing coal ash disposal super problems here in North Carolina. We've got a lot of power generation here, and a lot of coal has been shipped in and burned in, and they're next to lakes, and they're contaminating everything. They weren't real careful about it, and some of the dikes holding them broke and stuff like that. Now, what I'm doing is I'm pointing out that this future nuclear power plant proposal is in the middle of nowhere with almost no water resources. Look at it. With almost no water resources. You can see the little green stream there that's the river running through, compared to Sharon Harris with its lakes. And what these are is ash ponds. They've got enough water in there to dump. Now, you don't, here are previous ones. Let me show you. We're in the middle of nowhere, and do you notice this structure here? You see these things here? What do you think this is? Is this dirt? No, it's ash. Bet you it's ash. They're crushing it and they're leveling it. And these are the conveyors that brought it when those were being built, where the ash was being dumped. That's the guess. You notice how the article said, which will stop burning coal in 2026. I'll bet you there's a court order against them. I'll bet. I don't know. I didn't research it. I'll bet you. So they're going to have to switch to natural gas, which will emit CO2, but not coal ash. See, I'm analyzing. I used to work for the Mossad. I'm the CIA. I'm looking at the satellite views, and I'm keeping up with what's going on. Now, one of the things I noticed when I was looking at this is I didn't see any railroad tracks. If you go and look at the regular coal burning, the town I grew up north was on a river for the water and the cooling, to make steam and to cool. It was next to a highway, but it was also on a rail line to deliver the coal, because there was no coal mining anywhere near there. They brought it up from Pennsylvania. So I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the terrain, and one of the things I always notice is, where's the rail line? And I don't see one. And that made me curious. So then I'm looking a little more at this satellite view. Remember, I used to work for the Mossad. I'm doing analysis. I know what these two things are. I know what this is. And then I'm looking at this. And I'm looking around. And I can see the coal right there. Now, what I did is I said, is there a street view? And they aren't going to give me a street view. This is private property. But what is this black area right here? That's their coal. Why was this power plant in middle of nowhere, Wyoming? Why did they, and what's all this stuff over here? What's this right here? What's this? And why do they have this conveyor thing here? And why does it run by this over to this, and this is next to the power plant that burns coal? The answer is, now I'm going to shift gears. Back in the 60s, when I was in Israel and then coming back in 1968 from Israel, I went to the UK, London, and then I went to Wales, and then to the Midlands of England, and then up to Scotland, then I took an airplane home. The big controversy right back then about Wales was that they were collapsing the peat mining and basically destroying a large portion of the Welsh income base. See, when you have a coal mine, you got to get it from somewhere. But there's different kinds of coal. So what I did was I went, let's do a search on this. And it turned out, I think this is the right one. Yeah. Global Energy Monitor Wiki. You can download the full data sheet, and this is the Naughton Power Plant, is an operating power plant of at least 832 megawatts in Kemmerer, Lincoln County, Wyoming, United States. And there it is. So they're tracking it. And you can go to it. Here's the coordinates, but we already have it, right? And then I only got this far, and it reminded me of Wales. W-A-L-E-S, where they speak Welsh. Have I known people from Wales? Yes. Then I hitchhiked around Wales. Beautiful. And the people are really nice. I still remember it. Llandudno, Carnarvon Castle, Aberystwyth, Welsh Bicknor. Unit number 1, unit number 2, unit number 3. And then the ownership is, that's correct, Pacific Corp. So there are 3 generating units. And they are all Pacific Corp. And now I'm looking at the details and I'm understanding why this power plant was picked on as a right candidate as a cooperative by Bill Gates. You got to think about how did he choose? I'm guessing at it, but I know the reason. Because this site is really in trouble in terms of the EPA and all that stuff. I haven't done any research. I'll bet you if you go look it up, you're going to find it out. It's using coal of the sub-bituminous type. It's not anthracite, which is the cleanest burning, which is the most expensive. Unit number 2 is sub-bituminous. We're going to look that up in a moment. And then it's fossil gas, natural gas. So one of the units is in progress to start bringing in natural gas, however they do it, to learn how to burn it to take over the ignition part of that site. Whoop. There's supposedly 3 units here. I can see 1 smokestack, maybe another. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yep, there are 3 units here. There's a unit here, there's a unit here, and there's a unit there. Got it. I didn't notice that. Can you see all the cooling fans here? Can you see the cooling fans there? What would this be? This is unit number 3 where they're bringing in natural gas. That's a guess. That's what these tanks are here. Now to go over to all natural gas, they're going to have to build a pipeline into there because I can't believe they're going to ship it in by truck. But they would at first. All right, let's get back to this one. Let's look up sub-bituminous. Sub-bituminous coals are a type of coal whose properties range from lignite to those of bituminous coal and are used primarily as fuel for steam electric power generation. But let's get the real wording. Now, do you see the guys with the cowboy hats there? An American rancher holding a lump of sub-bituminous coal. That doesn't look like... When I was growing up, the property immediately behind our house's property, back garden, was a coal yard for selling coal to our house to burn in the winter to heat the house. And just beyond that were the railroad tracks, not one track, multiple. The coal yard was next to the railroad tracks because the railroad cars coming in with coal would dump it down chutes into the coal bins, and then the trucks would come in and load up and come to like our house and then put the chute down the cellar window, put it in the cellar, and then all went in the coal bin. And then I sometimes would put coal in the furnace, but not in the summer. But that's not the kind of coal we were burning. Okay, sub-bituminous coal is a lower grade of coal that contains 35 to 45% carbon. So what is that? What's the rest of it? Dirt. Dirt. The properties of this type are between those of lignite, the lowest grade of coal, and those of bituminous coal, the second highest grade. Anthracite is the highest. It's pure carbon crystal. Expensive, if you can find a vein. Sub-bituminous coal is primarily used as a fuel for art. So, sub-bituminous coals may be dull, dark brown to black, soft and crumbly at the lower end of the range, to bright jet black, hard, and relatively strong at the upper range. They contain 15 to 30% inherent moisture. You're burning something with water in it? By weight, and are non-coking, which means undergo little swelling upon heating. Coke, you take a rough kind of carbon source and you heat it and you get rid of all the non-carbon and that becomes a high-grade coke that you can then burn in your furnace in the winter. And so instead of having to bring in 100 pounds of this shit, you bring in 30 pounds. It's so much cleaner and more convenient. You don't have to shovel all that dirt out the door. Now, why am I going through this? I'm not an expert on it. So they're burning that kind of coal, and where are they getting it? This is the stage of refining it for burning. You remember the farmers in the field? This is where they're getting it. This is why the power plant was built here, is because there was a big slab of low-grade sub-bituminous coal. That's why there's no rail line, which they're going to have if they turn all to natural gas, or they won't need to build a rail line if they can have nuclear, because then they only have to bring in uranium on the trucks occasionally. That's my analysis. So all of this stuff around in here, right now the current vein of bituminous coal, sub-bituminous coal, is being mined right here, transported here, doing the fix-up step, and then burned, and then the ash is being dumped into these ponds to settle, and then they have to handle it in these ponds, and it ends up being something like this later. And they're going to solve their environmental problem by going nuclear. And that's how Bill Gates picked them out. He's got somebody that needs a partner. Needs a partner. Gotta have a partner. Gotta make the switch. We need somebody with money. That's my analysis. Wyoming. Steve A. before you, just letting his mind wander a little bit, but doing some brainstorming. reading the latest news about that punk kid I've known about for I don't know how long, working toward the next revolution to save the world, saying see you in 73.